In this video, I'm going to go through how to create a pin using bead embroidery. I'm not going to go through the bead embroidery part, but how you would take a bead embroidery piece and create a pin. So here we see various pins. Now the first thing to do is do your bead embroidery part. You can do anything from something elaborate to a simple framing of a cabochon, something you're going to finish, wild, whatever. So we have let's say we have our bead embroidery part done. And so the next step that you're going to do is trim it. Now when I trim it, my first trim I like to be a solid piece. Then I'll go through here and refine to get rid of these little jagged edges and everything else. But this gives me kind of a frame for this. So what do we know about doing the pin? Well, the first thing is we need some pin backs. So you'll need to purchase these. They have a variety of suppliers that sell these things. I like them to be really well made. I don't know if you can see these, but these are superior quality. They cost more. I'm sure other places have them. I typically get these from Rings and Things in Spokane, Washington. And they're more, but to me it's worth it. So we need to have this somehow incorporated into our piece of bead embroidery to create a pin. Okay, so what you will typically see most people doing. Now, as with most things in beading, there's more than one way to do things. And I'm going to show you my way because this works for me, and I'll tell you why I do it this way. If you have another way, but what you typically see is that you would take the pin back and then you would glue it onto your bead embroidery and then back it with the ultra suede and you're done. That really doesn't work for me. I view gluing very specifically. It's always three things. There's a surface A, and then there's glue, and then there's a thing it's surface B. So whichever you want to call this, A, B, or I am uncomfortable with this surface when the area being glued is as small as this, and with a pin, if you wear a lot of pins, you know that you get a lot of stress right here and you get a lot of stress right here. And so that's all concentrated into a very small area when it's like this. When I talk to people and they go, oh, well, they do that, and they explain to me that they have a very strong glue. Well, that doesn't work for me because if I glue this to a piece of tissue paper, then it really doesn't matter how strong my glue is. My issue is that the other surface is not a nice solid hard thing and it can tear, and that's my concern here, whether it's laces or leather or ultra suede. So what do I want to do is compensate for that situation. If I were to design a pin, I would have this part of it, this top part of it there, and then this area here that's being glued on would be as big as this, so that it would cover this entire surface. Well, I can do that. So what do? There's material, it's called flashing. It's available at the hardware store or Home Depot, Lowe's, all those places. It's in the roofing section. It is a thin piece of metal. The thing that's great about it is it's very sturdy, but it's thin enough that with tin shears you can cut it just like scissors, and you can cut this stuff. So it's very easy to work with. So what I do is I glue the pin onto a piece of flashing. This also allows me to use a glue which is an epoxy, which is the two-part glue where you one part this, and you have so that is a very strong glue specifically made for metal. This is on here super strong, almost welded. Then when I trim this to be the size that I want it for my bead embroidery, I'm able to cover a larger surface. So now instead of one skinny little strip absorbing all of the pressure per square inch, it's over this entire surface, spreading it out. also, since I'm going all the way to the edge with my piece, because when I get this, then here's what I'm going to be gluing on to the back of the pin. When I put my ultra suede over this and I stitch this here, the biggest parts of stress, or where it would pull away, is on the edges, but there's going to be stitches all the way around the edges with this in between two pieces of fabric which are stitched together. So it's a very secure type of situation. So I will typically get a piece of flashing. I'll cut up all kinds of shapes, get out my pin backs in the various sizes from really small to wide, and I will go through and just glue it, and then I'll put this in my stash so that when I want to make a pin, these are all ready for me. So what I can do is, why I like to do this in one piece, is now I'm able to fit it over here, and I can see how I want that pin to go. Whether I want it this way, if I want it this way, where that would have to be for me to trace around it. Or maybe I want something like this. And so you have a lot of different options when you do it this way. So this line represents this outside edge. Where I need the flashing to be is right inside there. So I can line this up, simply take a marker, and then I can just draw right on the inside, leaving that edge. Then when I trim it, I can always trim more and get this to fit so that I'm leaving about that eighth inch, quarter inch area all the way around to be able to accommodate where my stitches are going to go. So I can have that. Then when I can glue this onto here, I'll put a thin layer of glue here, and then I'll put a thin layer here. Now why I'm going to do the gluing in two areas is this is absorbent. What you'll see, take a big glop of glue and press it in here, it's just going to absorb right in. By doing this one separate from this is just going to have a thin layer. This, I want to see how much I need, because I'm not sure how much is just going to be absorbed. And I know from looking at this that I can glue this whole area. And because on this one in particular, after I trimmed it, I already put an edge on it, because I want this to go all the way around. So my excess here is where I'm going to cut my ultra suede, and then I'm just going to whip stitch the ultra suede in with this final edge bead. This is a sometimes called a picot edge, or it's the sunshine edge variation with the picot bead in between, but it allows you to do an even larger base. This would be a smaller base because this would be inside here, but I was going to do a whole different thing for the edging, but you can see this is holding that together. Okay, so let's review. So the first thing you do is you do your bead embroidery, and you're going to go ahead and trim it. I would still do a final trim. I'm going to use this to create my pin back, get that all trimmed up in here, and then I'm going to glue that onto the back of my piece. Now the last part is that this would be covered by ultra suede. So if you get a piece of ultra suede, and I'm going to kind of match it up here, well that's where it would be, and kind of fold this over. Now I can take a pen, because what I'm trying to do is figure out where I need to put in these holes. So I could take a pen and mark, okay, that's there, and that's there, What I like to, you can use scissors and you can cut holes here. Some people like to cut a straight line. I like to use a hole punch, and because it gives me this nice little thing, and if I need to, I can make it that larger. I got a little carried away with my marker, so that looks kind of messy, but so that, and then this would fit. Test it, make sure that everything is fine, and this fits over there quite nicely. So when I did this, and I used lots of really nice glue, because this is almost to the edge, so that it's this nice smooth ramp, and then when it's covered here, it looks nice, and it actually feels pretty nice too. So I'm just going to put my glue there, let that dry. Then I can trim this and go ahead and put my edge on. And that's really all there is to it. So the biggest difference has to do with using the flashing. This is the same thing even if you're doing earrings. Instead of that small area being glued to, because you know how much pull this gets. So what you're able to do is spread that area over a nice, much larger earring, and you can do it. One other thing I want to mention is the pin placement. Now you would think on this one that the pin would go this way, because you would be wearing it this way, and I didn't. I did it this way because I always will look and see, oh well, what is an easy way to just put this on a chain or other kind of cording to be able to wear it as a necklace. If it was sitting this way, I wouldn't be able to do this. I know there's some gizmos that you can put on a pin to add a chain, but I've never seen ones that really worked. But if I put my pin in a very particular way, so that's why you will see on most of, when I do pins, I'm centering it so that these can easily convert into necklaces if you want to wear them that way. This, not so much. You'd need something else to be able to wear it as a necklace. You'd need some other kind of gizmo, where this I can just simply string this on a chain. And I can wear it this way, or put it on a chain. So that's one other thing to consider when you're doing a pin. There are some bindings that have this part already on it. I don't tend to use these much because these pins are like what you find at most places. And the difference in quality between these pins and how the pin works and how this hinging mechanism works is really, it's so different that I have stopped using those, and I will instead use the placement of my pin. So I hope that helps you out if you want to do some pins and bead embroidery. That's what I do and why I do it, and if that works for you, great. If you do it another way and it works for you, good for you. Okay, thanks.